So
Praise the
I'm
Lord.
glad because it would have been hard to go live. Hi, everyone. We're laughing because I just cut off the doctor phone call, and we would not have been happy if I had gotten different results. But all my tests turned back good. So thank you for letting me answer that phone call again really quick.
Oh,
And
praise the
welcome,
Lord.
everyone.
Hi, everybody.
Yeah, we're just doing real life. We're doing real life as we go. And 2 seconds before we went live, I got my call from my doctor, and so I felt like I needed to answer it. But anyway, welcome everyone. Real life comes in the way, right? We have to go to the doctor and we got to get our tests, and we're good. We're good.
We do. And, healthy matters.
Mhm.
Healthy physically, emotionally, spiritually, socially, environmentally,
Mhm.
all of it matters. So welcome, everybody.
Yeah. Yeah, and so I've been on the Facebook Lives with my little boo-boo here. So, when Diana and I talked about it last week when I first got for those of you who didn't know, I had 3 biopsies on my skin last week because I've had skin cancer 3 times. So 20 seconds before we went live, my doctor called to give me the results, and so everything's good. I'm very happy about that. So, yay, praise Lord. But yeah, so we're talking about healthy, and so might as well talk about healthy health and taking care of ourselves and noticing that things don't look normal or noticing that things aren't off, whether it's in your skin or in your spirit, is a good thing. God calls us to steward our one precious life. And so today our topic is, your children need one healthy parent. So many of you listen to us because you're in a destructive marriage or you're in a difficult marriage. Sometimes that line is hard to figure out which it is. But what does it look like for you to be one healthy parent? What does that look like for you? Because this is such an important topic. And why do your children need one healthy parent? Wouldn't it be
Mm.
better to stay married at all costs? Your children need one stable marriage. And is it stable? So I think that Christian women have kind of sacrificed themselves on the altar of keeping our marriage together for the kids' sake. And yet your kids are growing up with 2 unhealthy parents.
Right. Leslie, that's so good. And can we just say healthy doesn't mean perfect. Healthy doesn't mean that you have it all together and you're not going to get unexpected phone calls, unexpected visitors, all of that.
Mhm.
Healthy doesn't mean perfect. Healthy. Yeah, type into the chat. What is
What is healthy?
healthy?
That's what I want to type it in the chat. If you were in an uncomfortable or difficult longer term marriage, stressful, your husband's not loving you like you want, he's maybe into porn, he's lied to you, he's cheated on you, whatever the kind of marriages that we talk about, what does a healthy wife look like in those situations and a healthy mom look like in those situations? Because obviously if one partner is not healthy, it impacts the rest of the family, right? You understand that negative people impact us. The Bible tells us that people will impact us for bad and for good. That's why the Bible says don't live or hang out with angry people, because you become like them. So they do influence us and impact us. And so how is it impacting you, and how is it impacting your children? And is that okay with you? Are you even noticing? Are you
Mm,
even noticing the impact? Just like I noticed that my skin was like I had some problems that I needed to check out with the doctor. Thankfully, it all turned out fine. But are you noticing what what is the impact of living in the situation that you're living in, and what's the impact on you, and what's the impact on your children, both from how your husband behaves and how you're behaving?
right. Leslie, that's so good. And just put it out there. Are we on Instagram? Because I don't see it.
It says we are.
Okay, cool. Just putting it out there. Just thought I'd ask because
It
healthy,
says there's people joined, so I'm assuming we're out there.
beautiful. I just don't see anything in the chat. So awesome because we have
Okay.
each other's back. And that's part of it. Healthy people live in truth. Healthy people are not afraid to have the hard conversations, right? Healthy people are not afraid to ask, measure twice, cut once. Healthy people get angry. Healthy people get frustrated. Okay. Healthy people get confused sometimes. So we're not saying perfect. I love that we can talk about what healthy is and what healthy isn't. So good.
So let's answer the question. What does it look like when you're in an
Mm,
unhappy, miserable, destructive marriage?
Mm.
What does a healthy parent look like? Put some words in the chat.
Ooh, boy,
What does
that's a big Leslie, that's a loaded question.
it is. It
There's
is, but
many parts to that because you
there are many.
said
Mhm.
yeah, you gave a few different types of marriages here, so there's
Mhm.
a lot. So no matter what your ears are hearing, no matter your situation, we wanna hear from you.
Okay, so boundaries, not losing your voice. All right, that would be really important
Mm.
for a woman, for a mom to have a voice in a marriage, even if the husband wasn't respectful, even if the husband didn't appreciate her voice. I'm not saying she should speak up to him. She should maybe not even speak up to him, might not be safe, but she might need to say to her children, I'm so sorry you saw that. That was disrespectful, wasn't it? Right? So that you're using your voice to clarify the scene for your children. So they're not seeing this as okay or this seeing as at normal, that you're clarifying the scene. Just like if daddy is drunk and he drops over and, spills his food all over himself, you're not saying, oh, daddy's being clumsy. You're clarifying the scene, especially with older children. Daddy's had a little bit too much alcohol tonight. Right? So you're speaking the truth in love. You're using your voice. That's what a healthy person does. They help their children see things correctly.
Oh, that's so good.
And this is so important. I remember
Yes.
when we were going through a really hard time, Leanne, in our marriage financially. We had put our house up for sale, and then we were starting to build another house, and then the housing market crashed, and so we couldn't sell our house, and we had 2 mortgages, and I was cranky, my husband was cranky, and our children were sensing that. They were sensing this stress, and they didn't know what was going on, but they were feeling and so we just told them, it's kinder to be clear. You say that so often, that clarity is kindness. And so to say to our children, hey, mommy and daddy are going through some financial pressures right now. It's not your fault that we're crabby, but we're kind of cranky right now. And we're kind of stressed out over, being able to pay both mortgages. Our house isn't selling. And they were old enough to hear those words. So I think part of being healthy is giving your children
Mm.
words to describe what's happening in the atmosphere of their home, to within boundaries, but with truth, with truth.
Yeah, I love that. So healthy it's telling the truth, it's not dumping. It's it's breathing for a minute and telling the truth. Whatever is age appropriate, right? For the kiddos. I was, Leslie, when you were just sharing that about daddy being drunk, I was that girl. Okay. So my mom was an alcoholic and I would make excuse for hers all the time. As a child, I was a teenager and I would make excuse saying, "Oh, mom is clumsy. She's super tired." Okay. So I was one of those children in a home where there was destructive behavior going on. And I will speak from personal experience. It was very hard to cover that up and try to make excuses for people who were not displaying healthy behavior. And it was a lot of weight on me as a child. And maybe some of you are experiencing that right now. And we want to hold that tenderly for you. These are very
Mhm,
real scenarios, Leslie, isn't it? Aren't they?
mhm,
That we're
mhm,
talking about here. We're here to talk about some of the really hard things that bring unhealthiness into a home.
mhm. And we would probably talk about 2 extremes, and we wanna talk about 2 extremes today, and there's lots in between too. But the one extreme is that you are so upset by what your husband's doing
Yeah.
that you're not functioning well. You're drinking too much, you're acting out, you're becoming reactive, you're screaming and yelling, you're shutting down and getting depressed. So that would be one extreme because of what he's doing in the home to you. You're not managing that well, and rightly so. But you need to take care of you. You need to get help because your children need one healthy parent. Even if your marriage goes down the tubes, your kids need one healthy parent. And it's obviously not him if he's not going for help. It has to be you. That's why you're here. That's why you're listening. So that's one extreme. But the extreme that we see more often in the Christian world, Leanne, is the other one, is that we're just fine. We're just fine. We have this little happy family and we're doing good and we're going to church. And no, nothing's really wrong with daddy and I. Oh, you saw me crying? Oh, I was cutting onions and, nothing's wrong. I'm fine. And you're just sucking it up and you're lying and pretending to your children. They sense the tension. They
Right.
sense in the atmosphere. People pick it up, kids pick it up that we're not happy here. Mommy and daddy are not doing well. And you're acting as if everything is fine. That's another, it looks like you're being the spiritual martyr or the bigger person in that moment. But what you're actually doing is you're faking it to your kids and letting them think that things are fine when they're not fine. And I'm not saying that we don't do that a little bit, as we don't dump on our kids everything in our life, but it would be more honest even to say, you know what, you're right, mommy is sad right now, and I don't want to talk about it. That's more honest than saying everything is fine, or mommy and daddy just had a fight right now, and mommy is a little sad about that. Sometimes parents fight. That would be more honest. You don't have to get naked and tell all your kids you're dirty garbage with your husband, for sure. Don't do that. That's not appropriate. But when you lie and pretend, your kids are making up stories about what's going on. And if you don't tell them what's going on, they're going to make up a story about it, like you did. Mommy's just clumsy.
Right. You know, Leslie, I love that you brought that up. And so we have an opportunity in the midst of hard or destruction to model honesty. And something that, we hear women talk about a lot is, we want our kids to tell us the truth. Let's just be real here, right? That's a high value for many of you, is honesty. We get to really do a little bit of self-reflection and assessment. Am I being honest in age appropriate ways? Like we said, you want to tell the truth, but you don't want to dump on them. There are languages and behaviors and conversations that are full of adult pain. You don't dump that on the kids. So part of being healthy is learning to regulate also yourself, so you're not dumping adult pain on little children. Mm-hmm. That doesn't mean you need to lie to them or pretend that things are fine, because again, we want to model honesty. We want to live that so that our children learn that. We can teach kids how to be great liars because they're watching us, right, Leslie?
Pretenders and pretenders.
And pretenders and pleasers. And that's not healthy. That is not healthy.
Yeah, so good, Leanne. And I see a comment on Instagram that says, I was the happy wife for 20 years. My 20-year-old, 18-year-old, 16-year-old, 14-year-old are still suffering from my poor decisions to cover up for him. Yeah. Right? And so we see this all the time. And ladies, I think we are trying to protect our children from ugliness. But the truth is sometimes it's kinder to let them see ugliness and learn how to deal with ugliness than to cover it up and pretend that ugliness isn't there. Now, again, age appropriate for sure. But here is the consequence. And I don't know, Joyful, what your experience was as the consequence, but I've been working in this field for almost 45 years now. Okay. So I've seen a lot of families go through this in the church. And the consequences I see is this, that you are the Bill Gothard, buttoned up, happy homeschool mom who does it all, bears it all, sucks it all up, and, serves your family well. And they've turned into people who don't see you as a person. They see you as a role, a mom, a wife, a, maid. And you're just supposed to be in that role. You're not supposed to have any feelings. You're not supposed to have any dissent. And so when you finally are up to here and you're drowning and you go to some of our workshops or you say, I can't do it anymore. I'm so sick. I'm so angry. I'm so depressed that I would rather die than live like this. And all of a sudden you say, I'm done. And your kids are like, Mom, who are you? Like, why are you such a anti-Christian person now? Why aren't you doing the things that God calls you to do like you've always done? You need to forgive, Dad. You're just being a hard-hearted woman. And all of a sudden, you're demonized by your husband and by your children because all these years you've sucked it up. So keep sucking it up, Mom, because you're ruining our family. When the real person who was ruining your family, you're covering up for all these years. And when you're done with that, you become the bad guy. And we've seen this over and over and over again. Don't let that be you anymore. Don't let that be you.
Leslie, I love that plea. It matters. And just because you've done things a certain way for many years doesn't mean you need to continue to do that moving forward. You can start to make the shifts now. And part of that, another part of being healthy is taking that personal responsibility, Leslie, that you just spoke about.
Mhm.
It's like we get to be personally responsible for our emotions. And sometimes when we pretend, when we placate, we are creating this container of unhealthiness that stuff starts spilling out and it comes out in really
Mhm.
funky ways for many people. And MDICU, right? Life is, even after you make big decisions, life will still be crazy and be turbulent. And you get to decide in the middle who you will be in the middle of the turbulence. And Leslie, I love what you just are holding up there right now. Speak to that.
So Leanne's just talking about this. So I'm just putting a visual up because I think having a visual, we can understand this. So your husband is unhealthy in a certain way. Maybe he's, we're not going to label it, but maybe he's very selfish, or maybe he's very entitled, or he's spiritually oppressive, or maybe he's checked out. He's very indifferent. He's, cruel. He's passive. He's gambling, whatever. You can put it on there. So we already know he's unhealthy, right? But when you're unhealthy about his unhealthiness, right? Now you've got two unhealthy people in completely different ways. All right. So maybe he's really being the selfish one and you're really being the selfless one. And they're both unhealthy. Right. And so you're creating an atmosphere for your children that's toxic, because unhealthy plus unhealthy does not create a healthy family. It doesn't create healthy children. And so you can't change him, but you can steward you. And that's what we're talking about in this workshop that I'm doing Tuesday. So we've had a lot of you attend these Facebook Lives. Many of you signed up for it. Leanne, if you could put the link, oh, you've got it up there.
I
So we're
did.
going to be
I
doing,
put it up there. Yep.
we're going to be doing this workshop on Tuesday. I'm not okay. I'm unhealthy when he's unhealthy, right? I'm not okay when he's not okay. So what's my problem? What's his problem? What's our problem? We're going to unpack all that in the workshop, because you may not be able to influence or change him. I'm sure you're trying. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing to try, but if you're coming up empty and he's not getting any healthier, what are you going to do? Because his unhealthiness is causing your unhealthiness too. And your unhealthiness is going to be causing your kids' unhealthiness. And the sins of the parents are passed on to the next generation. And I've been in this field long enough to see the next generation and talk to the next generation and counsel with the next generation. And they're saying, I wish my parents would have left. I wish my mom would have been honest. Not, I wish she would have stayed together. Now, if he's a good dad, then maybe there's some place for some of that. But if he's also unhealthy toward the children and unhealthy toward you, and you're shutting down or you're blowing up or you're trying to carry both ends and act like he's fine and you're covering for him, this is not healthy for your children to be in and watch.
That's right. Leslie, I had to pick up, right, and make some notes while you were sharing. And I can imagine those who are joining us are feeling the same. You're hearing some things right now that are concerning to you. And that's okay. We want you to be concerned. We want you to be aware of what's going on, because we can't shift or change what we're not aware of. And so all of these lives we've been doing, the workshop that's happening next Tuesday is all about this. And so right below here, if you go to leslievernick.com/join webinar, you are going to want to save your seat for next Tuesday, because we do tell ourselves stories and we think that we're not going to be okay. And for some of you, you have been blaming yourself for somebody else's behavior.
And if we say enough is enough, we're told, oh, you're breaking up our family. Oh, you're ruining the marriage. No, you're not ruining the marriage. You're just telling the truth. The
Right,
marriage
and
is
we stop. Leslie, thank you for that. I wanna, like, high five you. I wish we were like, in the same room at the moment, because here's the deal. We can, as Christian women, excuse harmful, hurtful, and destructive behavior so easily when it comes to the passages of scripture that we have been told, overlooking an offense, take the log out of your own eye. We can get those so twisted and distorted in our minds and in our spirits that we stop speaking truth. I just felt like we need to presence that, because here's the deal. There are things that belong to you, and then there are things that belong to somebody else.
And we can become so indoctrinated with some of the church's teaching about the sanctity of marriage, which I believe in. Okay,
Me
I've been
too.
married 50 years. Okay, I'm a long-term marriage person to the same person, so I'm not an easily just get rid of get divorced. I'm not for that. I'm for working things out and talking about things and growing things. But there is a lot of misteaching in the church, and I'm just going to give you a true story. I'm trying to think of her name now. I had it in just my mind, but John MacArthur's church, there was a woman whose husband was a pedophile. They knew he was a pedophile. She went to them and said he's a pedophile. And their counsel to her was love him, put up with him, protect her, but don't divorce. You can't divorce. She's did what she needed to do to get healthy, and she was excommunicated from her church. Her husband's still in jail for being a pedophile. So our churches have taught us that, yes, forbearance is important. My husband's not perfect. I'm not perfect. Each of us have had to forgive each other. Each of us have had to learn to, put up with each other's weaknesses and all those kinds of things. That's part of normal marriage. If you're going to have a long-term marriage, that's part of it. But if your husband is a sinner, which you are too, okay, so I'm going to just draw another chart. If he's a sinner and you are too, there's a difference between a healthy sinner, all right, because you're never going to not be a sinner. So, what's the difference between a healthy sinner, I can't write and talk at the same time, and an unhealthy sinner? Right? Because we're going to be married to sinners, we're sinners. So, your children are sinners. So, if you're a healthy sinner, what do you do when you hurt someone in your family? Give us some words. What do you do if you're a healthy sinner and you scream at your kids, or you called them a name, or you lost your cookies and said some things that you shouldn't have said to your husband? What do you do if you lied and didn't tell the truth? What do you do if you're a healthy sinner? Put some words in the chat. What do you do? I'll write them down.
Yeah.
What do you do if you're a healthy sinner? Because we all live with sinners. So we're not saying he's perfect, you're perfect. No, but you want to be a healthy sinner. So what do you do when you mess up with your kids? Well, you confess.
I'm
Right?
seeing you apologize, you
Apologize.
correct, you repent.
You repent, right? So you don't keep repeating the bad behaviors. You own it, right?
You make amends.
Yes. Okay.
You
Right.
repair. You
You
repair.
repair. Right. I'm so sorry. Mommy won't do that again. I remember
Ask
when I
for
was
forgiveness. Yeah,
asked
another
for
one, Leslie. I'm
forgiveness.
seeing ask for forgiveness, take ownership,
Right. Change. Don't keep
grace,
repeating. Yeah.
change. Yeah, how about that? You actually turn and go the other direction.
That's what repentance means. You don't keep doing it over and over again and keep saying, oh, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. We change it. That's what healthy people do. If I'm doing something, so I'm just going to share a story. My mom was abusive. You all who've listened to me for any length of time know that. And I was never abusive to my kids, but I could be loud and mean sometimes. And when my kids would look at me like, oh my God, mom, you're scaring me, it reminded me of how I felt as a little kid. And it broke my heart because I didn't want to ever have my kids feel scared of me like I felt scared of my mom. And so I said to my kids, I don't want you to ever feel scared of me. And if I'm ever doing anything that scares me, you have permission to say, Mom, you're scaring me. because I wasn't a perfect mom. And so they did. Mom, you're scaring me. And I would put my hand over my mouth and I would say, I need a timeout. That's what a healthy person does. They respect the feedback that people in their life are giving them. They invite the other person to give them feedback, even my littles, to give me feedback so I can self-correct. I don't want to scare my kids. That's what a healthy person does. Of course, we're not going to be perfect. But when you're with an unhealthy sinner, what do they do? What do they do? They ignore. They blame. What else?
They dismiss.
They dismiss. You're being too sensitive. You're being ridiculous. What's wrong with you? What else do they do?
Shame.
They
That would
shame.
be they shame or blame.
Blame, deny. I don't know what you're talking about. They lie. They gaslight. Right? Are you gaslighting your kids? Are you making your family look, oh, we're this happy family that goes to church every week and we have Christmas and we're great, when you're not? And your kids are getting gaslit? Minimize.
Minimize. Very good. You know, this is really glaring right now for me. So I'm going to just throw something out there. You know, healthy people notice other human beings. Unhealthy people do not notice. You don't notice your children. You don't notice the impact. You do not notice their humanity or their dignity. And here, oh my goodness, that just is, yeah, they blow you off. Yes,
and
they
repeat
continue to
and
repeat. Yes, you got it, ladies. Yes.
All right, so let's do a little honest self-evaluation. Where are you? Where are you?
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
You know, Leslie,
we all have a little of this. Okay, we all do.
We do. And, you know, I'm just going to be really real. Ignoring sometimes, I mean, sometimes I want to ignore some things too, because it can feel overwhelming.
Right.
And here's the deal. What is unmentionable is unmanageable. We cannot shift or change what we are not willing to see. And this is big. And this is another thing about healthy versus unhealthy. Healthy people will talk about it, even if it's hard, and we're going to get the help and support that we need. And here's the other thing that I know about unhealthy. Just going to put it out there. Unhealthy people are comfortable with the status quo. They are not wanting to grow. Healthy people want to grow. And that's the train that they're on. Unhealthy people are, I made a rhyme. They grow, or you're comfortable with status quo. And I love, Leslie, that you said, let's take a look. Let's be honest. Where are we? Where are you? Where am I? These are questions we get to ask. And that's another one. Healthy people ask questions. Unhealthy people judge.
So is it God's will for you to be healthy? For you to grow, the things that Leanne was saying, for you to be more aware, for you to allow feedback in your life, because we don't. So I needed the doctor's feedback to tell me whether the spots on my face were malignant. And I was willing to hear that feedback. And then if she told me they were malignant, which I've had before, where they have to do some surgery and things like that, I was willing to submit myself because I want to be healthy. So when you're living with someone who won't see it, won't admit it, won't talk about it, won't do anything about it, that's really unhealthy living. And when you're colluding with that and enabling that and pretending that, you're teaching your kids to do the same thing. Your kids are going to be sinners just like you, but are you teaching them to be a healthy sinner, or are you teaching them to be an unhealthy sinner? And how will that impact their life as they grow up, and their marriage and their family? You have a critical role, my friend, as the mom in the family, to teach your kids how to be healthy people, how to grow up, not only as a godly person, but as a healthy godly person. There's lots of people who know God's word who are extremely unhealthy.
That's right. Leslie, that is so good. And we can, you know, here's something else that's coming up for me in the moment. So we talked earlier as we were beginning this conversation about age appropriate. So we've got a lot of wise people that are either live with us now or watching the replay. I would love to ask a question if I could, so we can all learn alongside of each other. I wear glasses. You wear contacts, right, Leslie? All right. So
And
if we were
glasses on top of
okay,
my.
you got your okay, so here's the deal.
I need double
Hold on,
help.
hold on. Okay, so if we could virtually swap glasses right now, and you were to hand me yours, I were to hand me mine. When we look through each other's glasses, things are going to look a little bit different. Same with your children. So I'm curious, if I were to ask you, what looks healthy to your child? What are they seeing? What are they seeing in you? Because we get to also take a breath here for a minute. And what are you doing well right now? What are you doing well right now? What part of healthy is being on display? Because we know there's some unhealthiness on display. I have unhealthy patterns and behaviors in my life, and they're on full display. There are also healthy parts of me. So I would love to see and celebrate with you for just a moment about the things that are going well for you. What are your children seeing right now that are healthy?
Yeah,
Would
great question.
love to see that.
Let's put some.
Leslie, because you demonstrated that when you spoke about you had some spots, you went to the doctor, right? You weren't
Mhm,
afraid for the feedback, even if it wasn't,
mhm, mhm, mhm,
benign,
mhm.
right? So for you, you demonstrated and are modeling healthy. It's risky to go to the doctor. It's risky
Scary,
to get a
scary.
biopsy.
Mhm.
It's
Yeah.
scary. And, there's small choices every single day that we make. There's
Mhm.
probably been millions, Leslie, of choices that you have made in your life up until today or when you got your biopsy, right? That brought you to the point where you had the courage. Because truth be told, not everybody goes in when they have a spot and gets a
Right.
biopsy.
Mhm.
So there
Yeah.
was millions of little choices that you made along the way that gave you the
Mhm.
courage to be the woman that God created you to be, and even just speak that, to thousands of people in internet land right now.
Mhm. So Diane says patience in the trials.
Mm,
Yeah. So there's this quality of patience that, how do I trust God in the trial without enabling the trial to go longer than it needs to go just because I'm afraid to speak up or have boundaries. So Diane, I think sometimes all of our good qualities, like I love to make people happy. If I didn't love to make people happy, why would I spend an hour of my day for the next 2 weeks on Facebook Live? I love to
mm.
teach you. I love to serve you. I love to help you. We don't charge you anything for this. I still pay Leanne. I still pay all my tech staff to do this. And you're here because I love to serve. I love to do that. But I also have boundaries. I don't do this every day all the time, right? Because I can't. And I don't want to. And so you can have great qualities and then sometimes like people pleasing or patience, and then sometimes it gets to a place where it's unhealthy.
That's
The
right.
same good quality of loving to please people, loving to serve, and with no boundaries and no, then it becomes unhealthy. Or sometimes you're a great leader and you have great leadership skills, and without respecting other people's opinions or letting someone else have a voice or a choice, you're not such a good leader. And so understand that some of our best qualities can also lead to weaknesses, even our spiritual qualities. We can be very forbearing and have a lot of love and forgiveness and allow someone to continue to be harmful toward us without any consequences, which isn't good for us, but it's also not good for them. You wouldn't let your children keep kicking you, would you, or keep biting you because they were upset. As a good mother, you know that that's not loving. It's not loving them and it's not loving yourself. But yet we let our husbands to continue to be harsh and abusive with us with no consequences, no boundaries, because we're supposed to be submissive or because we're supposed to be forgiving. It doesn't make any sense. And so yes, be loving and have boundaries.
Oh, that's so good. Yeah, if we could just make a banner, right? Be loving and have boundaries. They go together. I am a firm believer that no relationship can be healthy without boundaries. And so I'm going to go out on a limb and say that. You're right. I mean, I just believe that with my whole heart. Jesus had boundaries. God, the Bible is full of examples of boundaries. And so some people have been told, and maybe you have been told, that boundaries are not biblical. They are biblical. Right in Genesis, God separated the earth, right? The dry land from the water. He created them separate in boundaried places. God exemplifies it and models it. And so it's important. And, I love, Diane, when, you said, yeah, one of your greatest qualities that your kids see is patience in the trials. And like Leslie, like you said, all of our virtues and our values have what I call a shadow side.
Yeah.
So patience, the women that I have worked with for well over a dozen years around these relationship challenges, their patience is a virtue. It is beautiful and it is wonderful. And it can lead to tolerations. And we can tolerate unhealthiness to the point where we are absolutely thoroughly exhausted or barely hanging by a thread. And that patience enables destructive behavior to continue. And I speak from personal experience, ladies. I have been there and I get it. I see you and I hear you.
Yeah. Yeah. And so our virtues can sometimes, our kindness, our compassion, our patience are healthy. They're good virtues. And we also need some wisdom on where these virtues. Jesus was loving, and yet there were times that he was hard on people. He spoke the truth in love, to Judas, to the rich young ruler, to the Pharisees. And so sometimes we're silencing ourselves. We're afraid. We're afraid, and fear would be a good indicator that your virtue. So if I have this virtue of patience, and I'm afraid to have a boundary of, like, I'm done being patient right now. It's your turn to do what you need to do, or or if I'm afraid to speak up and say I'm not doing these anymore. Whatever I'm afraid to say no to, that's a clue that my virtue has been now hijacked, and I'm involved in the unhealthy side of my virtue, the shadow side, as Leanne said, the unhealthy part of those good things. Our love can be enabling someone else to be destructive. And we love them so much. It's so hard to say, done, I'm not doing this. But it might be the kindest, best thing that you could say to someone, to splash cold water in their face and say, I will not continue to live like this. If this is the way that you choose to live, I'm not living like this. Not because I don't love you, but because I also love me, and I won't let myself go through this consequence anymore. Right?
Yeah. And I love that, Leslie. And you matter. You matter too. They matter too. We're not saying, right, that other people don't matter, because they do. Everyone has an inherent God-given worth and value. And I'm just feeling really led to say this right now, here in the moment too. So some of you have littles at home, and you're on this live right now because you're like, oh boy, yeah, my kids really need one healthy, not hairy parent. Sorry, I stick a little bit on my words here. Healthy parent. And you're here wanting some hope because you've got littles that you're really concerned about, and they're living in chaos right now, and your home feels unsettling. I hear you. Also, some of you are here and you have adult children. No matter what age your kids are, they need a healthy parent. So it's never too late for you to start getting healthy. And it is okay if you grow and mature and change at 50, 60, 70, and 80 years old.
That's usually the time where we have the time to change. The time before that, we're just too exhausted. In our 40s, 50s, and 60s, and 70s, we have more time to change, because before we're just kind of surviving, right?
We are. And so, it matters, because our kids are always watching. I'm fortunate I still have a parent alive in my world. I've had lots of parents in my life. I and some of you know my story, but let me tell you, the work that I do on me impacts my children and my grandchildren. It also impacts the relationship that I have with my parent who is currently living. And so whether you are, everybody here is somebody's kiddo. And so you need to be healthy too. And you have an opportunity to not to be hijacked. I love that you used that word, Leslie, earlier. You don't need to be hijacked with what has happened to you. You can be empowered to shift and change what happens next. And nobody can do that for you. I wish that Leslie could make me eat healthier and not crave ice cream right now. But she can't do that. That's only something that I can do is make healthy choices one best choice at a time.
Yeah, and we want to answer your questions about this. So if you have a question, put it in the chat. If you don't want to put your question in the chat, go to leslievernick.com/question/, and up will come a little link that you can ask your question with privately. But let me just say, for those of you who are older, you maybe your kids are older, teenagers, maybe they're young adults, maybe they're older. My kids are in their 40s. My kids love when I confess to them. They love to hear me say, you know, when I did that as a mom, I thought that was the best thing to do. I thought it was, the right thing to do to make you do this, or the right thing to do to make you do that, or whatever it is. It's plenty of things. And, I've come to learn that that wasn't the healthiest thing. And this is what God is teaching me now. And I wish I would have known that then, but I'm sharing that with you now. Not that you have, I'm not trying to tell them what to do, but our kids love to hear our confessions, whether they are in person, just like you, if your husband came to you and said, I've been a lousy husband. I've not been the man I want to be. That is like, you still may not be able to live with him, all of that, but that is like refreshing for us to be honest with our humanity, with our failings. And so even when you blow it with your kids, to be able to say, kids, I grew up in an era where women sort of stayed silent and they never did talk and they never did speak up for themselves. And that was considered unsubmissive and that was considered brash and ugly. And we're going to talk about that tomorrow on our Facebook. Do strong women make men weak? And guess who said that? John MacArthur. So I'm going to say it's not true, but come tomorrow to find out. But so strong women can't be strong because that's somehow ungodly, unfeminine. That's not God's plan for women. All the things. And I would say that to my children, but I've learned that's not true. Start being able to tell your kids what you're learning about being healthier, even now, can make a difference for them. Your kids still, even if they're adults, benefit when you have one healthy parent. My dad, when he took me from my mom's custody when I was 14 years old, he had done his work and was healthier. And he didn't bash my mom. My mother alienated from my father in her bashing of him all those years. And so I didn't want to go live with him when he took me from custody and all of that stuff. And I went through a very rebellious period of time. And my dad could have come down hard. He could have been cruel. He could have been, this is my house. We're going to do it my way. He wasn't that way. And so he always let me have my voice. He always let me argue with him about whatever. And I think that's part of the gifts that God gave me, is to figure it out and argue with people and talk about it. And we laugh about that today. My dad's 95 years old and we still argue a little bit about stuff. But what I'm saying is that over the years, he would say, oh, I wish I would have done that differently. I've learned that I didn't do this well, or I learned that that's really not Christ-like. And so I've really appreciated that my dad is growing, that my kids have appreciated that I'm still growing. Your kids will appreciate that you're still growing and that you can talk about that and you can confess your sins or confess your shortcomings or confess your ignorance. And that's not a bad thing. Your kids might really appreciate hearing what God's teaching you now.
Oh, Leslie, I love that so much. You know what's coming up as you were saying that? You know what? You're giving yourself permission to be human.
Yeah.
And when you own it, when you talk about it, when you're willing to grow, you're embracing your humanity.
Mm-hmm.
We're not little gods running around. We're just not. And here's the other thing. just like you were talking about, I've had to apologize to my kids too. I probably still have more apologizing to do. The more I grow up and the more aware I
Mhm.
come, the more those conversations will happen. And that is good. And you know what else I think that's really, really important that healthy parents or healthy humans do is they ask for help and support.
Mhm.
They don't pretend that they have it all figured out and that they can do it on their own. And there's something really powerful when our kids see us ask for help, whether it be to cook a meal, to clean our house, or to figure out how to navigate a really hard situation.
Mhm.
To raise your hand and say, you know what? I don't have all the answers here. I need some help.
Yeah.
There is so much strength in that.
Mhm. Mhm.
God's word says, with many counselors, victory is sure. There are ways that seem right to a man, and in the end, they lead to death. And I don't have the addresses, they're just in my soul, and I'm just speaking them out loud. One thing that I know is some of you have heard, I got enough common sense. I don't need your sense, and I don't need your Bible sense. And I'm sorry you've heard that. That's foolish talk. And it is okay to go to safe places to get the help and support that you need. And one of those is right here at the workshop next Tuesday, because he may never be okay,
Yeah.
but that doesn't mean you need to be in un-okay land.
Right. So we're going to teach you in the workshop how to be okay, even if he's not okay. And that's important for your kids. We've got some questions here, Leanne, and one I see in the chat right now from Amy. Do you have any advice? You cannot afford a lawyer and your narcissistic husband is fixing to get the kids. No pro bono or anyone will help. Amy, I'm not sure that's true. I think that you can find some help if you call your domestic violence shelter or go to secondsaturday.com. A lot of communities have something called Second Saturday where they help women with legal help in domestic violence situations. And your husband can't get full custody of the kids. No state, all states give parents 50-50 custody. So whatever he's scaring you with is a big fat lie, unless you've been abusive. And even then, it's hard for anybody to get full custody of their kids anymore, whether it's a husband or a father or a mother. And so I think you're getting bullied and scared by some of his bravado. But I think you can get probably free legal advice. You can go to AI and say, intelligence, go into the AI stuff and say, hey, I live in the state of Nevada. And what are the rules for custody? And what are the rules for all that? So you can find out what your law in your state says on the computer. And you can get some help from your local domestic violence shelter on what rights you have and where you can find some pro bono attorneys. So don't believe the lie that you are stuck with no options. That's not true.
Right. And I'm going to give the phone number. If you have a pen and paper handy and you are in a situation where you're feeling a little helpless, I see you, Amy. It's scary. It's scary. And, we want to just breathe with you for a minute. And I want you to grab a pen and paper and write down 1-800-799-7233. If you are in the United States of America, that is the number that you want to dial. There will be somebody on the other end that will help walk you into safety. Here is another: healthy people seek safety and don't stay in danger. Whether your danger is emotional, spiritual, mental gymnastics that you're playing, or stories that you're believing in your mind, we want to get you to a place of safety.
Mm-hmm.
And so by reaching out and asking for help, you can do that. There are advocates that will help you. There are resources in every community that if you get in contact with them, they will connect you with someone who can help you no matter what chapter you're walking in. You are not alone in this. And I know you can feel alone. And I know it can be scary, but there is resources to help you.
Yeah, the prudence see danger and take refuge. And so you're seeing some danger legally ahead for you, and there is resources for you, and there is places that you can go to get some wisdom and advice there. So I would encourage you to do that. All right, here is a question. My friend's husband has changed to some degree after she said she was leaving. He said it was because he did not want to be alone. She said it was hard for her because he never apologized or cared about what he did to her, and still does not. And he said, well, I changed, didn't I? What are your thoughts on that?
Oh, I got a lot of thoughts on that one. I'm going to start, and I'm sure you do too, Leslie. I will put a couple out there, and then, I'll pass the ball to you. Here's the deal. Words, anybody can say anything. And people will withhold words to punish. He may never apologize to you. He may never own it verbally. You have an opportunity to watch his behavior. You want to believe the behavior. If he is truly changing, then you will start to see behavior shifts and pivots in him. He may catch himself instead of verbally vomiting all over you. He may catch himself, take a breath, and choose his words more carefully. I'm not sure of what your situation is, but here's the deal. There is going to be a change. We talked, Leslie, hold up that chart really quick. I don't mean to tell you what to do. Please, will you please? Sorry, will you please? Okay, so if he is moving from an unhealthy sinner to a healthy sinner, he is going to repent. He's going to repair. He is going to make some shifts and changes. He may or may not confess it, but we just went through this. If he is still ignoring, denying, gaslighting you, minimizing you, and his ickiness is repeating over and over and over again, then perhaps he is not changing, like he says, and he's wanting to coerce you or force you into accepting things before there's a shift. What would you add, Leslie? I could go on and on.
Yeah, that's really good. I have 2 clues for you. So the first clue is he said it was because he didn't want to be alone.
Yeah.
So the reason he's changing is because I don't want to be alone, not because I'm convicted that I want to be a better person. So that is insufficient to sustain long-term change, because once he's not alone anymore, then that motivation goes away. He's not alone, right? And so that's a little tricky. So there's not enough internal motivation. It's all external. It's sort of like when I lost 20 pounds for my high school reunion. I wanted to look hot in my dress, but I didn't really want to eat healthy. I just wanted to look hot in my dress. So after the reunion, I could just eat what I wanted to and gain the 20 pounds back because that's over. And so that's sort of the motivation he's having is, I don't want you to leave, so I'll change my behavior so you don't leave because I don't want to be alone. Not that I'm disgusted with myself and I don't like the way I treated you and shame on me. I mean, I'm not saying he would say that out loud, but most of us, when I behaved scary to my kids, I'm like, that's not the kind of mom I want to be. I don't want to be that kind of mom. Not, I'm afraid my kids are going to leave me, but I don't want my kids to feel afraid of me. Right. So I don't see there's enough motivation to sustain long-term change. If that's true, that's the reason why he's changing. The second thing is that it really gives me the red flag is he never apologized. That's, if he shows he's sorry, it's different. Someone can apologize and still not show they're sorry. So Leanne was really great in that point. Actions are far louder than words, right? Or cared what he did to her. That
impact
is a red flag for me. So I just wrote a blog on this, not for this week's blog, but if you go to leslievernick.com/blog and you go to last week's blog, there's a whole answer for a woman who's asking a very similar question, that he didn't really care about what he did to her. And when you don't care, like I cared about the impact of my children feeling scared. I cared about that. I don't want to have that kind of impact on you, right? And so when they don't care how it impacted you, even if if you step on someone's toe and you don't care, even if it was an accident, even if you didn't mean to, and you say, well, that's your problem. What does that say about you? Right? So most human beings who are healthy sinners, even when you step on someone's toe accidentally, you care about the impact. I'm sorry I hurt you. I didn't mean to. Did you break your toe? How can I help you? Right? All of that. So the fact that he's, at least how you're expressing it, shows no care for the impact, doesn't bode well for change, right?
Exactly.
And so those would be two red flags for me that says probably the change is not sustainable, even if there is some initial romancing and love bombing going on. So she doesn't leave, right? The inner change or the inner work isn't really going to happen. And so I'll talk a little bit about that in the workshop, because I think that so many of you are settling for superficial changes and empty words, because of course we don't want our marriage to break up. We don't want our family to break up. And I don't want that either. I get it. But what you don't want to do is be foolish about what's really happening, because just because they're nice to you doesn't mean they've changed. You see, and a manipulator can be mean or nice, depending on whether they're going to get what they want. So if they're going to get what they want by being nice, most manipulators will choose nice. But once you don't do it anymore, then they'll get mean, right? So it's not really about changing. It's about changing your strategy to still get what you want. It's not really about a relationship that I respect your no. I respect that you have feedback to give me and I might need to change. And so niceness or kindness or all of the love bombing that goes on is not an indicator of true change. A true change would let you know when you say no. Like, let's say they're being really, really nice and they bring flowers and they take you out to dinner and they say, and I really want to go home and make love to you. And you say, I'm not ready for that. And they say, I just spent all this money and you're not ready for that? Why would I bother to do that then? Right now, you know, right now, you were just used, right? All this
That's
love
the
bombing.
thing.
But you won't know that if you don't have the courage to say no, right? If you are so swept off your feet every time he's in his nice mode that you give him everything he wants, you'll never know whether he's really changing or he's just in his nice side. You wouldn't have married him if he didn't have a nice side, right? So obviously he has the capacity and the capability of having a nice side.
And I love that we're having this conversation, and we so appreciate your questions. I know it takes a lot of courage to ask these questions. And so thank you for engaging with us here. There is the word indifferent kept coming up for me, Leslie, when you were sharing. And, when somebody doesn't care, just let that land for a minute. And that indifference, that not caring, they're not seeing your humanity. And that is never okay. You haven't, like I said, you have inherent worth and value, and many of you question that. And if that's you, and this is resonating with you, we do want to warmly invite you to the workshop next Tuesday. Go to the blog. We have a lot of resources there. You don't have to navigate this alone. You can choose healthy, but it is a choice, right, Leslie? It is a choice to move away from unhealthy land into healthy land.
And not just his unhealthiness, but your own unhealthiness. Whether
right.
it's passivity or silence, or maybe you're, overreacting and becoming dysregulated and depressed. All of the above happens when you live with a toxic
Sure
person.
does. Right, and being overrun by fear. And some of you are afraid of what if I turn into the healthy parent? I'm afraid of what might happen.
Yeah. Helen is asking what the blog address is. So let me just give it. You just go to my website, leslievernick.com/, most everything is leslievernick.com/blog. Right. So leslievernick.com/blog, leslievernick.com/join webinar, all of this stuff. So just go to my name /join webinar or blog if you want to read the blog. It wasn't every week, either Leanne or Susan writes a blog or I do. And we answer one of your questions, because we get so many questions that when we're not doing Facebook Lives, we just don't have, the opportunity to answer them. So we try to pick one every week and answer it. So we do in more details in the blog. So go to that one because it's very similar to this question. And what's your takeaway from today? What's your takeaway from today? And as you're writing that, I just want to prepare you for tomorrow, because tomorrow Coach Diana and I are going to be talking about this patriarchal mindset from a lot of biblical churches, or biblical, I'll say, patriarchally biblical. Do strong women create weak men? That was a statement that John MacArthur said that I contradicted and challenged him on. And I just want to bring that up because sometimes your husband will have that argument. Oh, you're getting too strong for your britches. Who do you think you are? Like somehow you're supposed to be this weak, submissive, compliant, dormant person and just revolve yourself around making him happy. And that's the biblical version of womanhood. It is not the biblical version of womanhood. And I want to talk about that tomorrow because some of you are afraid to put your brave on. And God calls you to put your brave on. He says, it pleases me to make you strong. And he's not just talking to men.
Thank you,
Right.
Leslie. Yeah, so please type into the chat. You heard something this evening that you want to carry with you as you lay your head on the pillow tonight, and you want to wake up with that shift so you can be that healthier woman, the healthier parent, healthier daughter, healthier sister, whatever it is. Please share your takeaway. Maybe you're empowered to have a conversation with yourself or talk to God about this. Please let us know. We would love to hear.
Yeah. And if you put your takeaway in the chat, it helps other people see, oh, I don't remember hearing that. That's important too. So sometimes what your takeaway is helpful to someone else who may have gotten a different takeaway, but also can remember that takeaway as well. So Leanne, thank you so much. I hope you have a great evening. And we're going to close for now. We had one other question that came in late that we couldn't answer, but I'll try to answer it either in a blog or in another Facebook Live. But take care, and I hope you've registered for the webinar. I hope to see you there, but we'll see you tomorrow at noon Eastern time to talk about, does getting stronger actually weaken your husband? I'll already tell you it's not true, but I'm going to give you the biblical support for it, okay? All right, so show up tomorrow, and we will have that conversation. Take care, and God bless. Thanks, Leanne.